Welcome back to Breaking Through Teens Journal. This is a show where we share our stories, our testimonies, and our talents. Today we have a special guest. Her name is Baylee Perry. We are very excited for this episode because today we are going to be talking about having a serving heart in a church. So how are you, Baylee?
I'm good.
Tell them a little bit about yourself.
Well, my name is Baylee Perry. I am 22. I have been a Christian for my whole life, but, really dedicated myself to Christ when I was in high school. I go to Virginia Tech now. It's my senior year. What?
Yeah!
that's a leave. But, that's me in a nutshell.
That's great. So today's episode, we want to talk about being involved in the church, because I know that you've been very involved in the altar and also backstage. So I kind of want to get into how it all became about and when you started being involved in the church and how old were you?
Gosh, well, our church started off in a high school. We didn't have our own building. It was kind of it was a little small. I've been going to the same church basically my whole life.
Mm-hmm.
And I really got started when I was in middle school.
Mm-hmm.
And I wanted to help out with the kids' church and the preschool. And I loved kids, and I still do. I love kids, and I love teaching them and being with them. And so I just kind of remember they would find me in the kids' church, in the preschool, just helping out, and they were just like, all right, well, let's just bring her on as a volunteer, I guess, then. And I just kind of continued on from there, so.
Okay. So what exactly did you do, first starting out, and then how did you get involved in, the singing and, all of that stuff?
First starting out, I guess I should clarify that I helped everywhere. Everywhere that's asked me to help, I go. Preschool is kind of, I went from just helping keep the kids focused and helping corral the kids and keep them sitting and listening to teaching. So now I teach, and I get a lesson plan, and Sunday we go over a Bible story. And then it took me a long time to get up the courage to get up and sing on stage.
Really? How old were you when you actually felt the need to go up there and actually sing?
I started off singing for the wrong reasons.
Okay.
I started off singing because my mom sang on the stage, and I wanted to be on the stage. But then I didn't feel like that's where God wanted me, so I just stopped going. I stopped doing it. And then I felt called again when I went into youth ministry, specifically teenagers and stuff like that. I was a senior in high school, I think, and they asked me if I wanted to audition for the youth band, and so I was like, okay, sure, I'll just sing background vocals though, don't turn me up really high, and it took me a long time to get from this, unconfident, self-effacing, I don't know, just kind of scared to be up there to hey, I'm up here to worship God, this is what he's called me to do, so that's what I'm going to do, I'm going to worship him. And
wow, that's good. So, I have a question for you. What does serving mean to you?
Serving to me means going where I'm called. So,
yes.
If God calls me to go on a mission trip, that's where I will serve. Mm-hmm. If God calls me to just go and help backstage and just do lighting or just do sound and be unseen, then that's where I'll go. That's what serving is to me.
And I think that's very important for youth out there, or even adults, to know that serving isn't just getting on stage and preaching the word of God, or singing in a big crowd and doing those stuff, but it's also about doing things backstage. You have to have a serving heart wherever you go. It doesn't matter if it's in church or at home. You always have to have a serving heart, because that's what God intended us to do, So I think that's very important to for people out there to know that serving isn't only on the altar. What we're doing right now is serving God, because we're here sitting down and talking about, serving the Lord and we're bringing new guests and we're letting, the audience like hear our stories and stuff and encouraging, and that's what, Christianity is all about. So
a lot of serving, I think, goes unseen.
Yeah. So what kind of things backstage do you do?
Well, I recently got into helping with the lighting and media, which is like putting up the lyrics, putting up the slides and stuff like that. I actually just finished an internship at my church.
Oh, wow.
I was doing creative media internship at my church, and that required a little bit of everything.
Yeah.
So I also learned how to do some sound stuff. I learned how to use a bunch of programs that we actually use in the church to keep things running smoothly, wiring, making sure the church is set up and ready for a Sunday, doing everything from creating fonts for the slides to just like planning events. So.
And how long does the preparation take normally?
For a normal Sunday, I would say it just takes about 4 days, just to be sure that like, hey, we've cleaned up the church from last Sunday, we have everything prepared for the kids' services, we have everything prepared for the media team, for the musicians and all of that kind of stuff. But if we're doing something bigger, it took us a month one time to prepare for a sermon. So,
oh gosh. So like for Easter or like special holidays, you guys, prepare ahead of time.
Oh yeah. They're currently preparing for, we do a large community event called tailgating.
Oh wow.
And they've started preparing in July, and it doesn't happen until like September. So.
Oh gosh, that's a lot of things to do. Yeah, because I know that in my church they have like an 8 a.m. service, and I know that the singers, they have to get there like maybe by 7 o'clock. And like the guy that's like in charge of like the ministry and stuff, he is usually there like already by 6 o'clock a.m. And it's like they have to do that and then set up for the 11 a.m. service. So it's like a lot of work that gets put into that.
I told the Lord, don't call me before 5 a.m. Don't call me before 7 a.m. I'll come at 8:30, Lord.
Yeah,
but don't
but
call me earlier.
5 a.m. Yeah. So I think it's so like wonderful to see like how everything like kind of plays out, like the lighting and stuff, because that's a lot. So what do you guys do when like things go wrong? Like, has that ever happened to you guys?
Oh, it happens at least once every Sunday. Something goes wrong. Something happens. It's more stressful when you're the volunteer in charge of that specific thing. Gosh, I remember there was a Sunday where I realized I forgot to put the correct verse on a bunch of slides that we had.
No.
And so they all said like it was like 2 Samuel something, and I was like, oh no, it's supposed to be Corinthians. This is like a completely wrong verse. Like,
oh, no.
So while they were preaching, I had to be going in as fast as I could, changing it, and I was just like, it was hard because I didn't want there to be a distraction for the congregation. I was like, this has to run smoothly. But
oh my gosh.
And then this Sunday, I was on stage singing, just background vocals. Still a little nervous leading anything. And my microphone didn't have a battery in it, and the first song had already started.
Oh no.
So then I was standing there going, oh no, how do I signal to them that like I don't have a battery? Like I'm just gonna pretend that everything's fine and I'm gonna worship. And then they came up really fast during the second song and changed it for me. And then we have this thing called Ableton. And it runs the like extra musical instruments in the background so that it makes everything sound more full, and then it also runs the lyrics so that they just go on automatically. It wasn't working in the sense that we couldn't stop it. So we were supposed to do 3 songs, preach, and then 1 song. But it just went right into the last song after the first 3 songs. And so the worship leader was standing there and he goes, we're gonna sing this song now, like trying to signal to them like, stop this song. And we ended up just having to go through the whole thing because nobody knew how to stop it. So
oh my gosh. Yeah, a lot of things can go completely wrong. Like I know for us, like we've collabed in a few things. Like we've been in musical theater in high school together. So like for the productions, like whenever our mic wasn't working, we just had to keep going, and like we couldn't really do anything. Like when you're in that spot and like you're in that moment, you kind of just have to keep the show going. Like you can't stop and be like, oh, I need a new battery or something. You just kind of have to keep going. So is it kind of like similar, like musical theater and like
It's very similar because in musical theater, I mean, you don't want the audience to know that something's wrong, and because you don't want to pull them out of that story. And it's the same for at churches. You don't want people to know something's wrong because you don't want to pull them out of whatever God's speaking to them in that moment. So it's pressure, and it can be frustrating, and you can want to turn and blame somebody, but in the end, it's like, we now know how to handle this because it's happened to us. So, like, we stopped this distraction from happening, and we were able to provide this experience for someone to get to know Christ. So,
wow. So, how has being involved in church, like, helped your relationship with God?
Immensely. I mean, you know me in high school. I was like, I wasn't bad, but I wasn't, like, the most, like, extroverted Christian in that sense. I was just kind of, like, bopping along, going with the flow. But I had an experience where God literally spoke to me, like, literally. And I was like, oh, okay. And he told me, go to this camp. I was at a camp when it happened, and I was like, I have to go to another camp? God, like, I can't just keep paying for camp. But he told me to go to this camp, so I did, and there he told me, hey, get involved in youth. And I was like, I don't like my youth pastor, like, at the time. He was my least favorite person at the time. And he told me, no, just get involved. And so I did. I humbled myself, and I had to go up and be like, hey, like, I want to be involved in some way. And so they put me to work setting up chairs for youth group.
Oh, wow.
So I'd show up at 4 o'clock at night, and I would start setting up chairs, and that was what I was doing, like, every Sunday, was just setting up a bunch of chairs and then being there. And from there, it spiraled into, hey, do you want to be a student leader? To, hey, you're an adult leader, to, hey, you're on the worship team, to, hey, you're leading worship this Sunday.
Wow.
So, and then me and my youth pastor became, like, best friends, and now he's in Florida. So, yeah, but that was kind of where it all started. Amazing. Have you been, like, serving, like, this, like, your whole life? I know your mom.
Yes, I've been, my mom is very involved. I have been a Christian all my life. And when I was really young, like, I think I was like 2 maybe, my parents would take me to their what's it called? Worship, what is it called? Worship,
practice?
Practice. I don't know what I was thinking. Worship practice, because my dad is actually a singer, like, he sings, and he was very involved in our old church. So I would always go, and, like, he would always sing in front of the church, and then afterwards, like, I would go up to him and I would ask him for the microphone, and I just start, like, mumbling words, and that's all I ever remember. And then after that, like, my mom, she joined a dance group, and she was actually my teacher afterwards. So, like, when I was around 5 years old, I began dancing, praise dancing in church. And then I wanted to kind of, like, get into singing more. So I wanted to join, like, the worship team at my church. And, like, you know, I did that for a little while, but things happened. I was a little bit too young. So things happened, and they told me that I couldn't be in the worship team anymore. And I was very, like, depressed. Like, I was so sad, because I was like, that's my dream, you know? Ever since I was little, I always knew that that was something that God put in my heart, you know, to serve him in that way. And I was really, like, upset that, you know, the pastors and, like, the worship team didn't want me there, because how do you tell, like, an 11-year-old that you can't, you know, sing in church? Like, it's heartbreaking, you know, as a kid, you know, having an adult tell you can't, and then it puts, like, things in your head saying that you're not good enough, or, like, you get those thoughts in your head. And for a long time, I stopped singing in church. Like, I didn't want anything to do with it. Like, I just kind of, like, you know, I was like, you know what, this isn't what I'm supposed to do, like, whatever. And then I kind of had, like, this long period where I was just, you know, going to church, sitting down, listening to the preaching, but never really fully receiving from him. until I went to a different church, and they kind of encouraged me to like get back into singing, and like they would always tell me, oh my God, I didn't know you sang, and blah blah blah, and they would tell me, yeah, you need to be in the group, and I was always like, no, like I don't think this is what I'm supposed to do. Like I just, you know, felt a little bit upset. And then when I was on my way to like celebrate my 15th birthday, my quinceañera, that's when I felt like God was telling me, like, no, this is your time now. Like, you know, you're becoming a woman now, and you've saved yourself for this long, and you know, you've been involved in church when you were young, and you know, something in my heart told me that I need to start singing again. So then that was like the first time that I had ever sang in front of a big crowd, and like that was the moment where I was like, you know what, this is what I want to do. Like, I know that singing is my passion, and I know that God is going to use me in that way. So then I joined the music team, and you know, it's been great. You know, now I'm not in it right now because I have a lot of things going on, like with school, but I know that that's something that God wants to see from me, and like, you know, pursue when I'm older. So yeah, so I do relate a lot with, you know, being involved in the church. It doesn't necessarily have to be like preaching or anything. You know, you can do other things. You can, you know, be a teacher for youth or kids, or, you know, there's just so much that a church can offer, you know, and the important thing is to find a church that is willing to, like, you know, have help as well, you know. So yeah, but that's kind of like my, you know, little testimony, I guess you can say. So how has like being involved in the church helped you through your teenage years?
I mean, youth especially, being involved in that gave me a place to go that was with other kids my age and had a message that was more directed towards kids my age. And it's like hard when you're a teenager because you can't just sit through like a normal sermon because I mean, our pastor always makes jokes that are like about taxes or something like that. And I'm like, I can't relate.
We don't know. We don't know about
even
that.
Now I'm like, I don't want to relate. But like being able to sit and listen to a message that was like directed towards me, and having a reason to be there beyond just like your parents telling you to go. I'm very much one of those people where if I'm somewhere, like I can't just sit still. Like I need to be helping in some capacity. And I've always been like that. I don't know why. Probably because God was like, hey, serve.
True.
But that's kind of how it helped me to just be able to be around people who could encourage me, who knew what I was going through. So
how can we encourage our youth now to like get involved in church if they do want to, or even teenagers that maybe are too scared to, like, you know, offer help? You know,
I think the most important thing, and you've mentioned it, is that service doesn't mean being up on stage and singing. It doesn't mean being in a spotlight. If you're stage shy or if you're just too nervous, there are so many different ways that you can help serve at the church. I mean, even if it's just a one-time event, like, going out in the community and gathering food, or any kind of like service event, you just like start small and see where God is telling you that the church needs the most help. And the church isn't just your church building. I mean, the church is the body of Christ. It's all of us. So I think it's just the best advice I could give someone is service is anywhere God's calling you. And that's wherever you. I can't say feel comfortable, because sometimes God pushes you out of your comfort zone. He pushed me onto a stage, so. But I mean, it's where you feel called to help. So
and I think it's important for us to remember that Jesus came to us, you know, to serve others. Like, he came to serve others. He wasn't expecting people to serve him. Like, he had a serving heart, and like I think that's a perfect example. We have to, you know, have a serving heart. Like, no matter where or like what we're doing, we have to have that, you know, intention of serving others. And that's what Christianity is all about. I think like one of the most important things is loving others, one, and two, serving God, and like with our talents, or even whatever he has gifted us, because every one of us has a special gift that God has given us. And it takes time to like kind of, some people know like from the start what their gift is, and some people are still trying to figure that out. But trust me, like God has something special for each and every one of his children. Like you may not be called to sing on top of an altar, but you may be called to work the camera, or like do something backstage, or even just helping a sister out or a brother out, in any way. That's still a gift that God has given you. So I think it's important to acknowledge that.
And sometimes the time commitment seems scary when you're a teenager, because I mean, I know I made a lot of excuses where I was like, well, I have AP classes, I can't commit every, like I'm doing things Sunday night, I'm doing homework because I wait last minute. But I mean, serving can just be one Sunday a month. It can be, I mean, it can be once every 2 months. It's just, I mean, don't burn yourself out. God won't burn you out. You'll know when he's telling you, like, it's time for a break, like, take a break. Like, he's not calling you to continually be out there and giving yourself away constantly. So like, don't overdo yourself either, like, if you honestly know that you can't handle so much things at once, like, don't just dedicate your time and like your effort, because I've known people like that. Like, they're like, so many they're so like, oh yeah, I want to be involved, I want to do this, I want to do that, but then when the time comes, they're like, oh wait, no, I'm busy, like, I can't do that. Like, no, you can't do that either. Like, serving is different, but like, you have to have that willing like heart to like do it, like, if that's what you really want to do, like, you have to set that time apart and do it, and sometimes you're right, like, it's just once a week, like Sundays. It's not like you have to do it every single day of your life, so I think it's really important for that. But so I was gonna say something. Oh yeah, I was gonna give the example of Teens Journal, because Teens Journal, not a lot of you know, but Teens Journal was actually something that my family and I have been praying about for several years now, like ever since, like, I think 2010, I don't know, something like that. Yeah. So we were actually like in a church where it didn't actually have a lot of opportunities for us to like help out in any way. Like, they kind of didn't want any help for any reason, for some reason. And so my mom created Teens Journal, and basically it first started out in our house. Like, it was kind of like a Bible study type thing. So we wanted teens from like the community to come to our house and like sit down with us, and like my mom handed out like journals for every teen that would come, and like we would kind of journal like what we learned in that class, and like we would do our prayers. And then every so often, usually we did it like once a week, we came back and like we prayed, and like we saw our prayers and like kind of reflected on that. And it first started out like that, and then we took it all the way to Reston. At first it was in our house, and then we got a lady from church that opened her house up for us to like have Bible study in her house, and we called it Teens Journal as well. And her kids invited their friends, and like their friends invited their friends, so it was just a big group of like teenagers, and we all came together, and we wanted to have that like encounter with him, and like have those moments of like reflecting on God and stuff like that. So, and then now we decided to do this show where we are going to bring more people from the community onto this show to talk about their testimonies and like their stories. So I think that's a way that my family and I serve God. That's just like an example, so you can do little things like that, like get a group of your friends to come to your house. Yeah, that's literally serving God, by just getting a group of your friends
to come to your house, do a little bit of prayer, do a little bit of Bible study, write down your dreams, your goals, whatever it is, you know, that's having a serving heart. And I think that's, you know, something that any team can do. Like, it doesn't, you don't have to do it in a church. You can also do it in your own home, because serving starts where you live. So yeah. Anything you want to add, like, to encourage our youth out there?
I didn't have I mean, you can be a goofball like me and still turn out okay, so yeah. that's something. But yeah, I mean, the smallest thing is serving the Lord. Just sitting with somebody at lunch, just praying with someone during a difficult time, just anywhere you see that somebody needs help, just that's a place for you to serve. So just yeah.
And don't be afraid. Like, don't let fear be the reason why you're not doing it either. If you feel fearful for any reason, if you're still kind of like iffy about if you want to join, like, maybe the worship team or just the media team, just really give it all to God, because at the end of the day, like, you know, you're benefiting yourself, and, you know, God can use you in many other ways, and you just have to open your heart up and let God use you. And yeah, so I think, you know, it's very important to have a serving heart in any type of lifestyle you live in general, you know.
When it comes to the worship team, I want to say that can be scary, because it's kind of judging your talent in a way. But if you're told no by the worship team, just understand that God may close doors, but it's because He's opened a better door for you. And maybe the worship team isn't where you're being called. And it's nothing against you. Trust me. Yeah. I've been on the other side. I've been on both sides, and it's nothing against you. It's just where God needs you at the time.
Yep. Well, thank you so much for watching this episode. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you have any questions or concerns, or even if you want to share your story, don't be afraid to contact us. We have a Facebook, a Twitter, and also an Instagram. So feel free to contact us whenever, because your story can make a difference. Thank you so much, Baylee, for being in today's episode. We really, you know, had a great time, and we love having you here. And we hope that we can have you here more often.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you so much for watching.